Some hearts dwell forever in darkness. Ilara stood in the shadows of Castle Blackthorn, the cold stone walls pressing around her like a vice. Her heart ached with a longing she had never fully understood, a deep-seated desire for the warmth of a family she had been denied. The laughter of the nobles echoed through the halls, bright and lively, but for her, it was a cruel reminder of what she would never have. She felt invisible, forgotten amidst the vibrant life surrounding her. Orphaned as a child, she had been thrust upon the care of a distant relative, a woman whose kindness was as rare as the sun piercing through the storm clouds. Cruelty had become her only companion. Ilara learned to hide her pain behind a mask of silence, crafting a life filled with faked smiles and quiet resignation. The laughter echoed, but all she felt was the sharpened edge of her own solitude. She wanted to scream, to shatter the barbed silence that wrapped around her heart. But instead, she stood alone, observing from the murky corners, waiting for a moment where she might feel seen, feel heard. With every tick of the clock, her hope dimmed even further. Each hour spent under the heavy weight of Castle Blackthorn felt like an eternity. Outside, Drevin, the brooding Lycan King, prowled through the grounds, burdened by chains of his own. At over 400 years old, he should have known peace. Instead, he wore sorrow like an iron shroud. Betrayal had become a constant shadow whispering in his ear, reminding him of those he had trusted, those who had chosen to stab him in the back. The whispers of treachery circulated, serving as a poison that seeped deep into his heart. He paused, his jaw tightening, memories flickering like ghosts. The loss of his closest ally hung heavy. That wound ran so deep, it had rendered him incapable of feeling anything, especially not love. Rumors of a plot against his throne twisted in the air, and he felt the noose tightening around his neck. His kingdom thrived on a fragile balance, and he feared it was slipping from his grasp. As he walked, lost in thought, a flash of gold caught his eye. Something stirred within him, a flicker of curiosity. He turned, approaching the source. There, hidden in the shadows, was Ilara, a haunting vision against the castle's grim backdrop. She stood still, a delicate figure shrouded in loneliness, her golden hair glinting under the dimming sun. For a split second, time seemed to freeze. He could feel their worlds colliding, a tether pulling at the edges of his sorrowful heart. Intrigued, he stepped forward, the distance between them narrowing. What was it about her presence? A reminder of something he had long buried? Ilara's breath caught, heart racing as her gaze met his. An electric shock pulsed through the air. A bond began to form in that instant, a connection neither could deny. She could see pain in his eyes, and in that moment, something shifted within her. Was it possible for someone else to understand her ache? Could they share their depths of despair? But shadows loomed, darkness inching closer. An enemy lurked, scheming in the dark recesses of the castle. A treacherous rival was watching, waiting for the right moment to strike. Each step drew them closer into a game of chaos and manipulation, bound by pain. What lay ahead? A collision between their broken souls? Would they become each other's salvation? Or would the darkness consume them both? The air thickened with tension, and just outside the castle walls, fate began to weave its intricate dance. Ready for Block 2, backstory and context? Ilara had spent her entire life within these walls, a prisoner of circumstance. Raised under the unforgiving hand of her aunt, the only warmth she'd ever known came from the sun, as it filtered through the narrow slits of castle stone. Orphaned at 16, she had been thrust into the care of a relative who saw her only as a burden, a reminder of bloodlines punctuated by tragedy. The fires that claimed her parents were a bitter whisper in her mind, a reminder of her solitude, driving her deeper into herself. Days melted into years, filled with the bitter sting of belittlement. Her aunt's laughter echoed through the feasting halls while Ilara worked in the depths of the castle, toiling away in the kitchens, unseen. She had been a maid in those same kitchens since she could remember, cooking for people who danced and feasted, while she only had scraps for herself. The heat was oppressive and the atmosphere suffocating, but it was better than the coldness of rejection. "Ilara! More meat!" Her aunt's voice barked through the air, sharp and demanding. Ilara scurried to fulfill the order, feeling like a shadow, present but never acknowledged. She often wondered if the laughter continued when the sun dipped low, casting the castle into shadow, or if the bright laughter turned sinister, echoing her own despair. With every meal served and every corner swept, her hope waned. She stared at the children of nobles playing on the castle grounds, wishing desperately she could join them, wishing she could belong. But no, she had to remain hidden. She wore her silence well, learned not to engage too closely, for fear of feeling. Her heart had learned to protect itself, shutting tight every time someone came close. Draven endured a different kind of silence, one forged by centuries of loneliness and loss. He had ruled Blackthorn for longer than most could fathom, and with each passing year, the weight of his crown grew heavier. He'd glimpsed love once, only to have it snatched away through betrayal. A friend turned foe, a dagger plunged into a trusting heart, and that wound had never healed. He had fought side by side with his closest companion, a brother in arms, until darkness enveloped them both in a twisted plot. Memories played in his mind, a bittersweet symphony. The laughter they shared felt like a ghost, haunting, taunting. The past had become a shadow on his throne, unable to be cast off. Friends? Mistrust proved them all false. Now he ruled alone, surrounded by admirers who saw a king, yet failed to glimpse the man beneath the facade. I should be grateful, he told himself often, grateful for the loyalty of my subjects. Yet, each time he stood before them, he felt that familiar ache in his chest, the yearning for connection, the desire for someone to see him as he truly was. Until tonight, he thought he'd buried those desires beneath layers of duty and past betrayals. Darkness festered around him. Whispers of rebellion drifted through the court, and those he thought loyal spoke in hushed tones about his reign. A coup was brewing, and he could feel tension curling in the air, like a tightly coiled spring. It was only a matter of time before that spring would snap. Tonight, however, a flicker of something caught him off guard. Curiosity as he approached the figure cloaked in shadows. Alara stood there, fragile yet resilient, as if she held the power to ignite long-forgotten warmth in his heart. Would she be the one to shatter the walls he had built around himself? Who are you? His voice was low, edged with suspicion, but also intrigue. Was he finally losing his senses? Alara's breath caught in her throat. The king's stare held power, and for the first time she felt seen. She stammered, every instinct urging her to flee. I'm just a servant. No, you are more than that. His intense gaze pinned her, pulling her closer. You are here for a reason. Don't deny it. She could hardly comprehend the weight of those words. Could he truly see her? The essence of her soul? What reason would someone like her have? She clutched her apron tightly, the fabric a reminder of her station. I only serve, she whispered, her voice trembling. The connection between them crackled. A silent understanding sparked to life, igniting a flame neither knew they needed. But just as quickly, a chill swept through the air, and the looming threat of betrayal hung heavy. A rival was watching from the shadows, plotting his next move. Would they be able to trust each other as the darkness closed its grip around them? Every moment churned with unanswered questions. A bond was beginning to form, but would it be enough to withstand the storms ahead? Ready for Block 3, collision and recognition? The atmosphere shifted, heavy with the weight of unspoken words as Draven held Alara's gaze. The world around them faded, the chaotic life of the castle becoming nothing but a distant hum. Here, in this moment, they were two souls bound by isolation and despair, longing for understanding. Draven stepped closer, intrigued by this woman who dared to stand before him, a servant yet more than that, a flicker of light in his life of shadows. Tell me your name, he commanded, his tone softer now, a gentle probing. Alara, she replied, breathless. The name rolled off her tongue, tasting foreign in such an exalted presence. I am Alara. Tell me, Alara, he began, tone grave yet curious. What secrets do you carry under your silence? She hesitated. The truth weighed heavy on her chest. No one had ever asked her that. No one had ever bothered to see past her station. Secrets? She managed, her voice barely above a whisper, yet emboldened by his attention. She felt a trembling rush of courage. I am just a shadow in this castle. No, he countered, his voice low but commanding. You don't get to define yourself as a shadow. You are more. With each word, she felt the icy walls of her past begin to crack. The pain of her childhood echoed behind her eyelids, suffocating. I was raised by a distant relative, she said, swallowing the lump in her throat. Cruelty was all I knew. I learned to hide my pain, to disappear. Draven's expression darkened as he silenced her. You may have learned to hide, but you are not invisible to me. In that moment, a visceral energy surged between them, a recognition of shared pain. Draven's heart ached. He saw her for what she truly was. I know what it is to suffer, he confessed, voice dipped in gravitas. I've faced betrayal too, lost my closest friend to those I trusted. Alara widened her eyes. A flicker of understanding danced between them, raw and exposed. They could be the mirrors reflecting each other's scars, wounds that felt familiar yet uncharted. You mean it? She asked, remembering the solitude she bore for so long. You want to understand my pain? Don't you feel it too? He replied, his gaze smoldering with intensity. This connection, we cannot deny it. I feel like I've been awakened. Though fear lingered at the edges of her heart, Alara found herself drawn to him like a moth to flame. I don't know, Draven, she whispered, vulnerability ringing clear. What happens next? But before he could respond, the air thickened with tension. The shadows around them began to twist, curling like dark tendrils. A piercing chill settled in the pit of Alara's stomach. They weren't alone. In an instant, a figure emerged from the darkness, cloaked in malice. Yet another rival who had been lurking, biding his time, the very ones who plotted against the throne. Look who we have here, the intruder sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. A king with a servant. How quaint. Draven's demeanor shifted. He instinctively moved closer to Alara, a protective stance, guarding her as the threat approached. What do you want, Kestra? He demanded, his voice a low growl. Just admiring the scene, Your Majesty, Kestra responded, feigning innocence. But it seems you're growing too close to your little pet. His gaze pierced through Alara, and she shivered under the weight of his disdain. Draven's muscles tensed, readying for confrontation. You've overstepped, Kestra, he warned, eyes ablaze. Leave now, and I may overlook this intrusion. Kestra chuckled darkly. Oh, but I can't resist a good show. I'd hate for my king to look weak, especially when a coup brews. Your walls may protect you, but they won't protect her. Alara felt dread gnawing at her heart. Draven, she started, but the words caught in her throat. Would this be the moment she would lose everything? What if he's right? Draven locked eyes with her, fury brewing. You are not just a pawn in this. You are stronger than that. I will protect you, always. But the threat loomed larger now, and as they exchanged those words, Alara felt it. Both fear and resolve mingling with urgency. The connection that had sparked between them felt like a fragile thread in a storm. Draven stepped forward, fists clenched. Any deal you think you have is off. I won't let you use her. She sensed his determination. But could this truly shield her from the oncoming storm? They were caught in a whirlwind of danger, and the world felt more precarious than ever. Time will tell, Kestra taunted, retreating into the shadows with a glimmer of his own sinister intent. You've made your bed, King. Let's see how your heart handles betrayal. The moment hung heavy in the air, and Alara turned to face Draven, questions swimming in her mind. What do we do now? Draven's jaw locked. Determination solidified in those fierce eyes. We prepare. We cannot allow them to win. Alara felt the warmth of his gaze, the silent promise that surged between them. It was more than a flicker of hope. It was a fire igniting. Together, perhaps they could confront the shadows and unveil the truth. But could they outlast the storm? Ready for Block 4. Development and vulnerability? Night wrapped itself around the castle, a heavy cloak of darkness. In the flickering candlelight of Draven's chamber, he and Alara stood on the brink of something monumental, the tension from their encounter with Kestra still crackling in the air like static, heavy and thick. Alara paced, heart racing. What if he comes back? What if he tells others? Those who would believe him? Anxiety twisted in her stomach, the reality of their precarious situation sinking in. Then we will confront it together, Draven affirmed, his tone steady, arms crossed as he leaned against the wall. Trust me, Alara. You're not alone in this. Not anymore. His unwavering gaze held her, and for a split second, the fear ebbed under the weight of his presence. But doubt lingered, gnawing at her resolve. What if I become a liability? If I'm just a target for them to exploit? Vulnerability laced her voice, and the pull to distance herself surged. You're not weak, he insisted, stepping closer, attempting to close the emotional gap. You are stronger than you realize. I've seen your courage surface even in the worst of times. Those words flickered like a candle flame, softening her apprehensions. What if I can't be the ally you need? She swallowed hard, the prospect of failing him terrifying. You already are, he said, grabbing her hand, infusing warmth and strength into their shared moment. You stand with me when others flee. You chose to face this darkness instead of hiding. His touch illuminated something within her. This was vulnerability's duality, the gateway to connection. Was it truly worth risking everything she had built? Alara lowered her gaze, a rush of emotions crashing over her. You don't know me well enough, she murmured. You don't know what I'm capable of. I've seen your fight, he replied, his thumb caressing her knuckles, aglow with silent promise. I see strength where others see only a servant. You matter to me. The sudden rush of recognition made her heart quicken. No one has ever cared for me like this, she whispered, the words unsteady yet honest. Draven's gaze softened, revealing a depth of emotion that took her by surprise. I know what it's like to feel alone. I've spent centuries pushing people away. But now, I see you, Alara. Those words struck deeply, igniting a fire within her heart. Why me? She asked, voice trembling under the weight of her curiosity. After everything? Because, he began, voice rich with unguarded sincerity. I've run for too long. Maybe you're my chance to finally stop hiding. Hope unfurled within her like a blossoming flower. But you don't have to shield me if it means risking your throne. Your safety is my priority. I'll protect you, always, he declared, fierce determination coloring his tone. We have to stand together, trust each other. The spark between them morphed into a silent commitment, and she could feel it as an electric pulse in the air. What do we need to do? We gather intelligence, identify potential allies among the court, and uncover who stands with us, he outlined. You have connections I don't. You hear the whispers in the kitchens. Use that. With the weight of responsibility on her shoulders, she felt both fear and exhilaration intertwining. I will, I promise, she assured him. Their days transformed into a blend of secret meetings in shadowy corridors, whispered exchanges, and furtive glances. It was both thrilling and primal as they forged alliances, identifying loyalists and observing key figures who played roles in the brewing conspiracy against Draven's reign. One particular evening, as they huddled together in a dimly lit corner, Alara shared her findings. Tonight, we'll meet with the baker. He hears every secret in the kitchen, she said, confidence rising within her. Draven regarded her with a mix of admiration and pride. You're remarkable. You've shown incredible insight. This is exactly what we need. Just don't get cocky, or Kestra will hunt you down, she warned, an edge of humor in her tone, despite the tension hanging in the air. Draven chuckled softly, the sound a balm against their shared anxiety, but seriousness soon reclaimed the moment. This isn't a game, Alara. We walk a dangerous line. We need every ounce of strength to prevail. I know, she replied, her heart swelling with purpose. But standing beside you, I feel like I matter. I'm more than just a servant. The spark between them shifted, igniting a tension that brushed against something deeper. And amidst this growing closeness, shadows loomed. The uncertain connection they shared became a tether binding them to the impending conflict. One sleepless night, unable to shake the mounting unease, Alara sought Draven's presence. She found him by the window, staring out into the abyss. Draven, she called softly, stepping closer. He turned, surprise gracing his features, then deepening into concern. Ilara, he breathed, a familiar weight settling. Are you okay? She asked, uncertainty creeping into her voice. It's heavy. The burden feels relentless, he admitted, anguish threading through his expression. But facing it is easier with you here. The way he said her name sent warmth flooding through her, as if they shared an understanding that transcended words. I'm so afraid of what might happen if we proceed, she confessed, the tremor in her voice betraying her resolve. And that fear is okay. It means that you're alive. You must embrace it, not let it define you, he encouraged. As they stood there, cloaked in uncertainty, she felt an urgency tinged with longing. And if we fail, what then? Then we fight again, together, because I refuse to let anything take you away from me, he vowed, his eyes blazing ferociously. Alara's heart raced at the determination shimmering in his gaze. I want this to be real, she whispered, her voice laced with conviction. Then let's stand strong. I'll protect you, he reaffirmed, inching closer, the air charged with electric anticipation. In that moment, everything shifted, the space between them collapsing as their lips met. It was more than a kiss. It was a promise, a shared determination against fate's cruel designs. As they pulled apart, the gravity of their circumstances rushed back in, a reminder of the danger lurking just beyond the castle walls. Tomorrow we stand ready, Draven said, his grip tightening on her hand, passion mingling with urgency. Together, they would face the storm that loomed, not just for the kingdom, but for the love unfurling between them, a fire against the cold that sought to snuff it out. But would they be ready for the trials to come? Ready for Block 5, crisis and declaration? The sun began to rise, its light creeping through the castle windows in golden streams, piercing the darkness that had enveloped Alara and Draven the night before. Yet, as beauty broke through the horizon, a foreboding sense of dread hung heavy in the air. They found themselves on the precipice of chaos, and the weight of impending betrayal loomed larger than ever. Alara stood in the war room, a place usually bustling with strategy. Today, it felt like a cage, the walls closing in around her. Draven was pacing, his brow furrowed in deep thought, a transformation from the warmth of the previous evening. She watched him, feeling the urgency thrumming through her veins like a drum, while uncertainty dripped from her every breath. Are you sure about this? She finally spoke, breaking the silence, her voice trembling with apprehension. Draven stopped, meeting her gaze with intensity. We have to be. Kestra won't hesitate to strike first. His words twisted her stomach into knots. The idea of confrontation, the very thought made her skin prickle with fear. But what if we fail? What if that leads to your downfall? Or worse, mine? I won't let that happen, he said firmly, but the tension in his voice betrayed the truth. Alara took a deep breath. You don't have to shoulder this burden alone. I'm in this with you. Her words were meant to reassure them both, yet they hung in the air, heavy with the implications they carried. We'll gather our allies, alert those who stand with us. They will back us against Kestra, Draven began, determination shining in his fierce gaze. The Baker will send word tonight that we're ready to meet, and with those in place, we'll confront Kestra head-on. Uncertainty took root again. What if they turn on us? People can be swayed, easily misled. He stepped close, closing the distance she'd hesitated to bridge. Trust in the bond we've built, Alara. You've seen their loyalty. You've heard their whispers. We know who we can count on. Doubt ricocheted inside her. And what about the ones who aren't loyal? What about the traitors we can't see? That's why we need to act swiftly and strategically. Trust your intuition, he replied softly. The time for caution is over. She felt the pulse of determination blend with anxiety within her. And our plan? We confront him outright? In the throne room? With the court watching? Draven nodded. It'll be an open declaration. We expose the truth before all. Deliver our message loud and clear. Her heart thundered in her chest. What if it backfires? Then we adapt, he said with a fierce intensity that sent a spark of resolve through her. We'll face whatever opponents dare to challenge us. Together. A shiver ran down her spine, not from fear, but from the raw strength of his conviction. Together, she echoed. As the day reached full bloom, the door burst open. An anxious soldier stepped inside, breathing heavily. "Your Highness, a message from the baker," he exclaimed, a sense of urgency in his voice, and Alara's heart dropped. "Yes?" Draven stepped forward, commanding attention. "We've been betrayed. Some are not as loyal as we hoped," the soldier reported, eyes wide with concern. "Kestra has sent word. He knows our plans." The shock hit hard, her stomach churning. "No," Alara breathed. "This can't be happening." Draven's expression hardened. Fury ignited his features. "How did it happen?" The soldier hesitated, glancing from Alara to Draven, trembling under their weighty presence. "One of the guards overheard your conversation in the hall. We might have a traitor among us." Alara felt betrayal creep into the corners of her heart. "Who?" "I don't know, but we must act. Kestra's coming for you now," the soldier said, urgency permeating his voice. Draven stepped closer to Alara, fingers intertwining with hers. "We need to prepare for a confrontation." "We can't wait!" Before she could respond, the castle walls shook as shouts erupted from outside. Chaos broke free. Alara's heart raced. "They're here!" "No hesitation now," Draven commanded, pulling her closer, their resolve rushing back like an unquenchable fire. The soldiers around them moved with urgency, weapons drawn, preparing for the conflict that had come to their doorstep. "Gather everyone. We will draw them toward the main hall," Draven instructed. Alara felt adrenaline surge through her as she instinctively reached for the battle dagger hidden at her waist, a relic she had kept for self-defense, yet never thought she would wield in battle. "What do we do?" she asked, breath hitching. "We stand together," he said firmly. "Shoulder to shoulder. Our strength will see us through." Moments ticked into chaos, and she felt the intimidating weight of impending danger encapsulate them. Time dwindled. Her heart raced, fear mingling with the fierceness of potential. And then, they were there. The doors swung open with a fierce crash as Kestra strode inside, flanked by his loyal guards, treachery obvious in his sneer. "Oh, what a lovely little gathering we have here," he mocked, eyes sweeping across the room, catching Alara's gaze momentarily, an ominous threat in the depths of his eyes. Draven stepped forward, gaze alight with ferocity. "You've crossed a line, Kestra. This ends today." Kestra chuckled, a dark, sinister sound threading through the room. "Is that so? You truly believe that? You stand on the brink of what will clearly be your downfall. Your little alliance won't save you." Alara's breath caught. The tension thickened like a palpable mist, drowning out reason. "We've united those who believe in our cause. Your treachery won't go unnoticed," she declared confidently, instinctively aligning herself beside Draven. "Your hope is futile," Kestra sneered. "You're nothing but an Omega, a pawn in a game beyond your understanding, and you, King, will watch it all tumble down." The room felt electric, anticipation crackling in the air, hearts racing towards impending battle. It would be a fateful confrontation, one that would define them, courage or cowardice. In that moment, she realized they were ready, not just for this fight, but for everything. Together, they would take on whatever treachery lay before them. "Let's see what happens when you push me." Draven thrust his chin forward, voice steady, but within his eyes flickered an unyielding promise. And at that moment, the tide began to shift. The battle would begin, not just for survival, but for their love that shaped the bonds stronger than chains. Ready for Block 6? Resolution and forever? The atmosphere crackled with tension as Kestra's guards surged forward, weapons drawn, ready to strike. Alara felt her heart race, adrenaline flooding her system. They wouldn't back down. This was their stand. "Stay close," Draven commanded, eyes fierce as he positioned himself beside her. There was no doubt. They were in this together. The clash of steel rang in the room as Alara took a defensive stance. She dodged the first blow from a guard, countering with a swift kick that sent him sprawling. "We need to split their numbers," she shouted, glancing toward Draven, who engaged another attacker with fierce determination. "Push the tables! Create a diversion!" With a commanding shout, she rallied the surrounding loyalists. The clash and clatter escalated as they overturned furniture. The sudden chaos created openings, and Alara seized the opportunity to fight her way toward Kestra, who stood at the center, a dark smile tugging at his lips. "Is this your grand plan, little Omega?" Kestra sneered, brandishing his blade with dangerous flair. You should have stayed in the shadows. With a heart racing between fear and fury, Alara met his gaze. It's time for you to fall. They clashed, blades connecting with a sharp ring. Alara's instincts kicked in, allowing her to evade his strikes, countering with precision. She was more than just a servant. She was a force to be reckoned with, a protector of everything she held dear. Just as she maneuvered out of his reach, she caught sight of Draven battling against Kestra's guards. He moved like a tempest, strong and confident. You won't win this, he shouted back at Kestra, his eyes ablaze with defiance. Alara felt invigorated seeing his determination. Draven, she called. Together! He charged toward her, fighting back the last of the guards that had blocked his path. The chaos blurred around them, but their focus remained sharp, locked on their common enemy. As they closed the distance to Kestra, Alara felt a surge of power. We stand united, she declared, raising her dagger. What do you think you can do? Kestra taunted, and Alara could see the desperate flicker of fear behind his bravado. Draven stepped forward, resolute. You've miscalculated, Kestra. Your reign of terror ends now. One swift movement, they charged together, pushing back against the darkness that had plagued their lives. Alara delivered a decisive strike, her blade cutting through his defenses. At that moment, Kestra stumbled, surprise flickering in his eyes, until he let out a furious scream. You cannot defeat me! He charged one last time, driven by desperation, but Draven intercepted, locking eyes with him. You're wrong, Draven said with fierce conviction. This ends today. In a flurry, Draven disarmed Kestra, wielding the power of their combined strength. The guards scattered, realizing the tide had turned. With one final blow, Draven struck, sending Kestra to the ground. The room fell silent, the victory hanging in the air like a wave of relief washing over them. Alara stood breathless, heart pounding as she looked around. The loyalists rallied, triumphant cheers erupting in the chamber, celebrating their hard-fought victory. Shadows lifted. They had faced the storm together. We did it, she whispered, locking eyes with Draven, a rush of emotion swelling within her. Yes, we did, he said, voice thick with awe. We faced him together. Now Kestra lay defeated, the fear and treachery turned to ash. They stood at the dawn of something new, not just warriors, but allies bound by love and resilience. As the chaos subsided, Draven's expression shifted. We must ensure he can't rise again. It's time for justice. The crowd murmured agreement, their voices echoing in unity. The path ahead would shape a new kingdom, built on loyalty and hope. Alara stood beside Draven. They both understood the weight of what they would build together. What's next? She asked, eyes filled with future possibilities. Together, we'll rebuild. Transform this realm into a haven for all, where strength lies in unity, not fear. In that moment, they promised the future they would forge. A bond cemented in truth, loyalty, and love that would endure through the ages. As they stepped forward into the light, Alara felt confidence bloom within her. They were no longer alone. They were a family, two hearts intertwined, ready to embrace whatever came next together. And as sunlight streamed through the castle, illuminating paths once shrouded in darkness, they could finally breathe easy. Their fight was worthwhile, their love a beacon guiding them forward. Forever, Draven vowed softly, looking deeply into her eyes. Forever, Alara echoed, knowing in her heart they were more than a story of survival. They were a testament to the bonds that could not be broken. If you enjoyed the story of Alara and Draven, their fierce love and united front against adversity, subscribe for more epic Lycan romances. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a story. And remember, love conquers all. Thank you for listening.